What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have yet another album review for you. So this weekend, pretty busy with releases. There was a lot of them, and unfortunately we are not going to be able to cover them all, but one I definitely wanted to go over just because I have become a fan of this band within the last couple of years was the latest offering from Wayfarer, American Gothic. This also comes out on the 27th of October on Profound Lore Records. This band formed in 2011 in Denver, Colorado. This is their fifth album overall. I got into them with their 2020 release, A Romance with Violence. I was really blown away by their blend of black metal / post-black metal and like a country western, I guess. Like, it's kind of like a U.S. folk sort of blend, but it has all the vibes of like, well, just like the high plains and like westerns and such like that. And I really got into this sound because, I don't know, I like hearing like innovation within genres and such, and this is just a clever sort of wrinkle within black metal. This band actually features members of Stormkeep and Blood Incantation, so I mean, there's a lot of talent involved because both those bands are excellent. And this is quite a wild and immersive listen, and honestly, as I listen to it, it really feels like there's a story and a narrative, and there's like a legit beginning and end to this story, and it doesn't end pretty, I can definitely say that. Now, a lot of this seems focused on like the Dust Bowl era of the Plains, which was like late 1920s to like the mid to late 1930s. Pretty much the overfarming and the series of dust storms that came through kind of just wrecked shit out there, and we were already in the middle of the Great Depression here in the US, so it was just pure Bummerville. And that essence is definitely captured on here, the opening track, The Thousand Tombs of Western Promise. It opens up with Western guitars and, you know, kind of dusty plains melodies. It's kind of dreary, and then it slowly starts, you know, morphing more into like a black metal, almost kind of black and death metal. It's really kind of hard to describe their sound because it is definitely a blend of different things, even just on the metal side. Like, this opening track kind of reminded me of like Opeth and Baroness and Mastodon, except they all met up in a dusty bar somewhere in like Topeka, Kansas, specifically like in the early 1930s. I mean, honestly, I look at pictures of Michael Ockerfeldt and just put a cowboy hat on him, and I think he'd fit right in. But the first two tracks in here, this opens up in rather epic fashion because the first two tracks in here, I think, take over 16 minutes of the album here. The Cattle Thief and The Thousand Tombs of the Western Promise are both like over 7 minutes long. In fact, The Cattle Thief is like 9 minutes long, and it is a huge sprawling epic of a song with multiple like big crescendos and, you know, sections where it leads in with like the more, you know, folky kind of, you know, Western guitars, and then shifts dynamically into just very epic black metal. Like, it's very catchy, it's very riffy. The Cattle Thief in particular is a big standout because there is like a triumphant vibe to it, mixed with this sort of dreary like country western vibe to kind of offset it. It's like, you know, Wolves on the Throne Room, except they're like all cattle barons. And while I think this song is a little bit more black metal centric, it does illustrate kind of the main thing in their sound is that clever weaving between these vastly different sounds. Like, folk metal is not far removed from black metal at all. I mean, it's often a big element in like second wave black metal from Norway, but this is US folk. There's a totally different vibe to it versus like more European or like Scandinavian folk. So this sort of blend is different, but it kind of still comes naturally, and how they shift back and forth, I think, is absolutely remarkable. The transitions are almost seamless at times. Like, 1 second you are listening to like almost some chicken picking on an acoustic guitar, and how those melodies sort of slowly morph into like black metal riffs and like dissonant melodies and such. The main melody that repeats on the song To Enter My House, Justified, it's really cool to hear it sort of, you know, start off as a more country western melody, and then slowly but surely, like, it kind of morphs into like more metal. In fact, like, there's a progression in there where it turns into like some like classic heavy metal harmonies for a second, and then shifts to blackened tremolos. And these shifts in that song are dramatic as hell. Like, everything can drop out for a second and get more quiet, more intimate, and then just get absolutely huge. In fact, the last part of it definitely leans more on the post-metal side. It was like a almost more blackened version of like Cult of Luna at a certain point. And there's a lot of post-metal song building, like in terms of like deconstructing and rebuilding the song in a different way. The song Black Plumes Over God's Country, which is weird. Anytime I hear God's Country, I think of the east side of Toledo, and God has never been there. He will probably never go there. I mean, there's some cool venues over there, but yeah, no, east side of Toledo, definitely not God's country. Anyway, the song comes in with some absolutely amazing riffs. They're instantly catchy. Again, very like reminiscent of stuff you would hear in Mastodon albums, especially the last one, Hushed and Grim. The melodies are excellent. The vocals are roaring. It's got a nice intensity to it. And then everything drops out and gets like a little bit more quiet and a little bit more intimate. And then you have this really cool buildup. I think this is where they have a guest vocalist on here, and he has like more of like a traditional kind of country western sort of, delivery. And, I'm generally not like a big country fan, but I really like these moments on here because, again, there's like this kind of like salt of the earth sort of vibe to it. Like it feels very rustic and dusty, and it just absolutely contributes to the whole vibe of this. But you get like a clean melody over like a kind of broken down sort of rhythm. Like it's not heavy really, but it's heavy in terms of like emotion. It feels gritty and dirty. And then it slowly keeps building up. Like you start getting like tambourines and like shakers and such. And then the double bass starts coming in and sort of ramping up the energy. And then it builds into this absolutely amazing crescendo with a really killer lead. And lead work on here is not really like super prevalent. A lot of the guitar work is about the intricacy of the riffs and melodies, and again, that blending of these different styles to create something very cohesive and very haunting and very captivating. I felt like kind of drawn into this, and it's got kind of a cinematic quality where, I was associating some of these sounds and these bits of atmosphere with, movies. Like there's little quotes and, like bits of atmosphere in terms of like people speaking in the background in here, but a lot of this, I was thinking about movies like Tombstone or There Will Be Blood. And even after this big dramatic buildup and this giant lead that comes in, albeit it is kind of short, but it feels huge in terms of like the scope of it, I still kind of got that vibe. It was like Opeth on the high plains, and that's kind of cool. And not all of this is like super heavy. In fact, there's a lot of quieter, more intimate moments. One of my personal favorites is a High Plains Eulogy, which is just a, kind of a dirge. Like it's more acoustically driven. You have like some nice atmospheric slide guitars that are kind of in the background, which there's a lot of cool like sliding, like almost banjo or lap steel sort of melodies on here that again contribute to the overall sort of vibe and atmosphere of this album. You have a Hammond organ that kind of sets the mood and fades in. And this one is entirely clean vocals, which I have to say the vocal dynamics on here are really cool. Like there's a lot of, clean passages. There's a lot of just good, solid black metal roaring. But this song and the song 1934 are pretty much just like Dust Bowl dirges. They all kind of have like a dreary shuffle. 1934 actually has like hand claps instead of like actual drums in there. Like there might be like a little bit of extra percussion there, but it's the hand claps that really kind of, supply the big rhythm there. But in terms of like the dirge vibe, nothing beats the last track, False Consolation. That is just dreary. It's absolutely miserable. It sounds defeated. It sounds like life just beat the living shit out of it, took its land, and you are on your last dollar drinking in a seedy, dusty bar. And while it has this like Western vibe, there's also like kind of a David Lynch sort of like Twin Peaks vibe to it. So it's a blend of like two very different dark moods, but the whole vibe of it is just dreary, downtrodden, and defeated. You have somber kind of choir vocals that are in there. It sounds like ghosts of settlers that died on the plains trying to chase their dreams and got trampled by maybe horses, I don't know. But the main vocal line on there, honestly, it kind of reminds me of The Cure. So this is such a weird blend because there's like some post-punk sort of vibes to it. It's kind of dreary and like Gothic, not like the American Gothic they're going for here. But it's all the miserable things kind of blended together for like the saddest ending to a story. Like if this was a movie, everyone died of tuberculosis, even the dog. Or, it's essentially the end of a Western where the hero is shuffling out of town, suffering from a gunshot wound to the gut, just bleeding out as vultures are starting to watch. Pan out, get some tumbleweeds in there, kind of just blowing across the plains, and roll credits. Like, that is how this album ends, and Wow. It's an amazing bummer song. Like, it's a very specific bummer song, and I absolutely loved it. Now, there were definitely some things that I didn't like about this. It certainly wasn't the production. The production here is absolutely amazing. And once again, Arthur Risk did this one. How the hell does he have time to do all these albums? Because we have brought him up so much in this month alone. And I know pretty much every month I think we bring him up because he ends up mixing and mastering something that sounds awesome. But I will say there were some songs here that didn't necessarily gel with me, like Reaper of the Oil Fields. It's another cool, dreary Western song. It's not like a big metallic one, and that isn't really the issue with it. My issue with it is that it kind of goes nowhere. Like, it kind of just stays in one place. It hangs on to the one melody, like it does kind of build around it. But it really didn't do much in terms of like transitioning into the next track or anything like that. It felt like a long interlude, and it's like over 4 minutes long. And while I liked 1934, I do feel like it's a little bit extra, and it doesn't necessarily lead into the next song very well. Like, it kind of just feels like we had, you know, another idea and another aspect of this whole country western vibe we can throw on with the hand clapping. But I feel like that's captured even better on other songs. Maybe minus the hand clapping. Like, that's the thing that kind of actually stood out the most about that one. But outside of that, man, I really dug this. I really dug their last one. I don't know if I like that one a little bit more than this one, but I definitely like this one a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this 4 stars. This is a really engaging, immersive listen. I like that they are adding a different wrinkle to black metal overall with this. This album is huge in scope, like a wide open prairie, if you will. There's lots of amazing riffs on here. I love the country western passages, and that is coming from someone that is not a big country fan at all. I think it contributes so well, and I like how these elements are interwoven. And that is a testament to their songwriting dynamics. Like, at any point, I feel like this could have fallen off the rails because they're trying to do too much, or maybe meshing up two styles that don't necessarily fit together, but in a weird way they kind of do. But I think they nailed it once again, and I need to actually go back and check out some of their older stuff. There's part of me that's actually kind of curious about how like black metal purists feel about this. I mean, part of me also doesn't care, but I'm actually kind of curious because this band is definitely doing something, you know, pretty innovative in terms of black metal, and well, innovation in black metal kind of irritates some black metal fans. But I mean, if you're a big fan of Cult of Luna, Harakiri for the Sky, or Harakari, however you say that, Wolves in the Throne Room, Opeth, Mastodon, Baroness, it's kind of all whirled together here, and it is done exceptionally well. I strongly recommend checking this one out. I am going to order this one here like super soon. So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel, but thrallsmetal.com is where you find thrallsofmetal.com merch. We have new shirts. We have old shirts at a discounted price. We have hats now. So if you're interested in any of that, click the link down below. And of course, thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, following, all that shit. It means the world to us. It is absolutely still amazing doing this. I still absolutely love doing this. I love talking to you guys in the comments, even though I tend to like get to them in bulk. But it's great either way. We have a ton of stuff planned for you. Lots of collection updates coming. Probably going to get back to States of Metal at some point. And probably towards the slower weeks during the end of the year and, you know, kind of the beginning, we're going to get back to some retro reviews too. So yeah, tons of stuff coming in the future. So once again, thank you all, and we will catch you later.